Good evening and welcome to Mindful Life 280. I am your host Nathan Springer. Thank you for being here. It is the 1st of September. New month, people. The 9th month is here. The month where school reopens. School is reopening in 3 days, the 4th of September, I believe. School reopens, at least public schooling. Mindful education, which this is brought to you by. We were running all along. We never closed and we are still opening. So if you have interest in homeschool classes, homeschool style sessions, be sure to contact us at Mindful Education. Mindful with 2 L's, of course, _education. Over on Instagram, we also offer private tuition, private tutoring for those who want that one-on-one attention for most CXC and CAPE subjects. So if you are interested, be sure to contact us. Yeah, and we're jumping right into the news. We're talking some police business today, some police activity that went on recently. And I was looking at the video, Tony the Ambassador. I was looking at a video coming out from Grandy. Yes, Grandy, baby. Yes, Grandy. Cover up the belly. A video coming out from Grandy where, what's your favorite film? I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's a very hard question. A video coming out from Grandy where a market vendor in Grandy was out there in the market complaining about a police. Wow. Sorry about that. Yeah, complaining about a police. I hope you all are still picking me up over there. A market vendor out in Grandy was complaining about a police. Welcome, Levi Hussein. Thank you for joining too. And the police, apparently, according to the vendor, was trying to kick her out of the market. Now, when I looked at this video on the second viewing, and looked at some of the details on the second viewing, it just didn't quite seem to add up to me. Some of what was being alleged just did not make sense. And now, you all know me. Good night, Anika Bess. Good night, hostess and co-host. Thank you. The hostess says good night. Do you say good night to the people? Yes, good night, people. She says good night also. Good night, people. And when I looked at the video a couple times after, what was being alleged just didn't quite make sense to me. The story wasn't really adding up. A police officer, a municipal officer who is out there and just trying to throw out a market vendor out of the market, it just didn't add up, but it was already viral. That's one of the things. And that's one of the things with the internet and social media as it stands. Things could go viral whether they make sense or not. It's just a matter of what tickles people's fancy at the given moment. And you know, very often police are something that tickle people's fancy when it comes to negative things happening. Police, they regularly fall into that area inside of Trinidad and Tobago. So let's jump in and watch that video, at least watch it again for those of us who have watched it before, and we'll analyze some things. No, Nicholas, I don't agree with that. And you know what's the strange thing with that, Nicholas? Regularly, you see the ACAB crowd. The ACAB crowd are those super progressive leftists whose parents are wealthy and they come from wealthy homes and they out there talking about defund the police and all cops are bastards and etc. 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 And anytime they fall into problems, they go protest something in their little eccentric way and they bounce into someone who is a member of the public, who is a little more brutal than them, and what would you know? The first thing out of their mouth is, someone please call 911. So, no. Police are necessary. Law enforcement is a necessary part of society. All of the criticisms I give to the police, I regularly make that point obvious. Law enforcement is a necessary part of a civilized society. let's jump in and watch this video out from Grandy. Now, if you are over on TikTok, you're just going to hear the video. You're not going to see it. It would be seen by some of you who look at me over on YouTube. On YouTube, it's Nathan Springer over there. You could head over there and subscribe to Nathan Springer. You can catch almost all of the lives on repeat. If you miss any live, it's saved over there. You could go back and watch it. So we would see the video on YouTube.
Every single day, and they're not doing nothing about it. But this particular officer coming and harassing me and using other people, right, to victimize me. So this is what I'm seeing here. Watch, no one is moving, but she gave me 15 minutes.
Now, you saw Ray says I saw this video. Now, if you're listening to the video, let me lay an outline, and I see like my mic was giving some trouble over there on YouTube. Apologies for those on YouTube who probably weren't hearing me very clearly before. What the lady is outlining here is she's showing a video of her market stall inside of the Sangre Grande market, and then she pans out and walks along the street outside of the market and is showing a long line of vendors outside the market that are also there and are not being moved by the police. And she's complaining about that. How come they aren't being left? How come they are being left there by the police? And this police is here victimizing me and harassing me. Now, something, after I saw this video the first time and I rewatched it a little, something kind of just wasn't settling right. It wasn't adding up totally in my mind. She is saying that a municipal officer, and now the municipal police are people that would be more accustomed with the goings on of the municipality, of the city, of the town area. They know the vendors, they know the people, the regular customers, they know the regular people on the streets, etc. They are familiar with what's going on here. You're trying to tell me that this municipal officer, who is giving a blight to the vendors on the street. Now, regularly in Trinidad and Tobago, regularly one of the complaints you hear about police inside of the cities is that look how they're treating the hustler. I was looking at a video just earlier this week or last week, and police were removing one vendor from in Port of Spain, and they were taking up the guy's produce, I believe some pawpaw and stuff, and just throwing it in a van, and it really broke my heart too. It's like, oh, can't you just rest the man's produce down? And regularly you hear people talk about this. The vendors on the street, why are you paying all of this attention to these vendors on the streets? Allow the men them, let them make the hustle now, man. Okay, so you actually have a municipal officer who is allowing the people to make the hustle, as many trainees want. And then, now, you are telling this officer, since they're allowing the blights on the street, they cannot tell you anything inside of the market. The guy was selling on Frederick Street, though. Yeah, I know. I understand. But even he was pointing out that other people were selling on Frederick Street too, but that's not even the matter I'm speaking about. In this specific instance, the vendors on the street are being allowed, and you are saying that this police is attempting to move you. Now, it doesn't make sense to me that the police is attempting to remove a lawful market vendor. I don't think that this officer is out there trying to kick out a lawful market vendor who's paying for her stall, and they're just kicking you out randomly like that. I don't believe that. That doesn't make sense, especially when you add to that obviously these police are allowing people to even do their vending on the pavement. they seem to be a little more lax. All right? And then now, if we are looking at that, what would be the reason the police is telling this vendor inside of the market to move? Is, you know, as you get older, you have to recognize that some things are best bought inside of the market. If you're being real, you have to go in the market for some things. All right. If you're inside of the market, what is the most regular thing that police officers harass market vendors about? The most regular thing. Moving out of the lane. Because what vendors tend to do sometimes is they bring some produce, and when they have a little extra produce sometimes, or they just want a little extra space, they go a little in the live is sticking. Yeah, I'm getting some warnings there. Apologies about that. Nothing on my end. I believe it might be digital playing around with the internet a bit. But yeah, what the police most often harass market vendors about is them doing their vending inside of the walkway. So if I were to guess, I would say most likely what the officer was doing was attempting to get this vendor inside of the market to come a bit out of the lane. And if you look at the video, at the start of the video, her stall is there, and it is the lane right there seems a little narrowed. It does seem a little narrowed. So I would guess the officer, something like that. The officer then, do you expect the officers, the municipal officers, do you expect them to never move anybody who is vending in the lane inside of the market? We should know that's not going to happen. They literally have to do that. If they allow all the vendors to do whatever they want inside of the market, then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of the market. No one would be able to move through the market anymore. So I'm seeing a lot of sticking going on Instagram. My apologies to you over on Instagram there. Poor connection, and I'm not exactly sure why the connection is poor. But yeah, the police literally cannot do that. Then you might as well throw out all need for law and all need for law enforcement. They cannot allow everybody to do what they want. So if you are now telling the officers that they cannot tell you anything if they don't move the street vendors, what do you think is the possible consequence of this? Moving the street vendors. I hope in Grandy, you see, with actions like this, and the intent here is to put up this police officer to lambast them. That's the intent, to make them back down from doing you anything. And we know that's impossible because they would have to take action. I hope when it reaches to them having to move the street vendors, that every street vendor they move, they make sure to tell them, this is the fault of the market vendor complaining about it. That's the reality of the blight. Regularly on the live, I don't know if there are any officers in the live right now, but regularly in the live, I talk about this, about, you know, you want police that are willing to give people blights at some point in time. You want reasonable police. I remember a regular in the live, Denicia, was saying that she was very far along being pregnant, stopped at the side of the road, I believe, to vomit or something like that, and a police gave her a ticket. Like, really, you have to be reasonable. But at the same time, if you're asking the police to be reasonable, the citizenry also have to be reasonable too. And you have to understand that the blights would have to stop at some point in time. And if you are the one who does not get the blight, and the response you have to that is that everyone else who does get the blight must suffer. When you see police being militantly unreasonable, that's the reason. You have unreasonable people that in turn force the hand of unreasonable police. To me, the idea of wanting municipal police is, I want inside of the urban areas people who are familiar with how the commerce goes. So maybe the municipal police would know that at this point in time, We could allow some street vending because it isn't peak time. The pedestrians don't overflow onto the road, causing road traffic with the cars. So we could allow some street vending. All right. And then around Christmas time, we kind of have to cut back. That's what you want from municipal police. You want them to be given that latitude that, okay, they don't have to necessarily follow the militant letter of the law. They could allow some things to happen. All right. You are a P car. You are not supposed to stop here to offload any goods. But Harry, I know is you. I'm giving you a blind hurry up. You have 10 minutes to offload your goods. Harry, don't push it. Now, if they give the Pika a little extra time to offload their goods, and then every Tom, Dick, and Harry inside of the area decides that I need to get that time too, and I need to stop because that one gets the blind, it's going to defeat the entire purpose of it. And this video went particularly viral, which was strange to me because the narrative that was said wasn't even a complete narrative. It didn't even build a complete picture. Okay, this lady officer is attempting to victimize me, but all these people are out on the streets. Where's the proof of any of this? It's literally one recording with a narrative being said through the recording. Tony the ambassador says somebody does always overdo and make it bad for everybody. Exactly. That's literally it. Somebody must overdo. And then in this instance, it's not only that you overdo and then make a viral video on it. So you reinforce the overdoing that you overdid. What are the municipal officers supposed to do? So I'll tell you, if I was a municipal officer and now I see this, I know, okay, if I have to tell the market vendor to move, you're going to record me and try to make me seem like a beast. So then everybody have to move. I'm starting from the top of the town and I'm moving everybody. And when the street vendors ask me, but boss, oh gosh, boss, we a little blind, I say, listen, I was allowing you all a blind. But you see, and the lady called her name in the market video, just by the way, you see that video that the lady made? That's why we're moving you all today. That's, to me, if I was an officer, that's the solution I'm doing there. I am going through the community, and everyone I move, I'm letting them know why you are being moved. Because that seems to be the outcome that would be satisfactory to some people in that case. Because you are not satisfied with the present situation that it is in. You know, regularly when I'm speaking about police issues and about the officers in Trinidad and Tobago, I have to make sure to balance it with saying that policing is a difficult job. You have to deal with human beings. When you have to deal with human beings, like think of customer service reps. But customer service reps that deal very often with criminals, with people who are breaking the law, and with people who are in exceedingly high moments of distress. So you have to give good customer service at those kind of ticklish times. It's not an easy job. But so we have been seeing some headway. The police at the commissioner at the Independence Day speech said that they are making some headway and they will not be intimidated. Now, I saw someone saying this on Facebook and I kind of agree to some extent. They were talking about Mr. Gary Griffith and the difference that he was to the average commissioner in Trinidad, and the reason that many people, that according to the post on Facebook, that many people didn't like that commissioner, and he was different. He was a bit more well-spoken. He could have spoken on the spot a bit more. And really and truly, I've said this, and I don't mean this in a malicious way. But the fact is that the Stephen Williams, Philbert, etc., are kind of cut out of a certain cloth. And they sound and present and read and answer questions very, very similarly. personally, I don't find it at a very high acceptable level. And I find that Mrs. Ola Christopher seems to have gone back a bit into that mold. A bit. But she says TTPS will not be intimidated. Top Cop slams detractors and naysayers. Commissioner of Police Ola Christopher has declared that the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service will not be intimidated or distracted in conducting its duty. Christopher was speaking at the TTPS Independence Day celebration yesterday at the Police Administration building in Port of Spain. During her address, Christopher said that for 2023, there had been reductions in reports of serious crimes. Which reports, I am not sure. But she went on, several commentators have articulated that crime is the biggest problem facing our nation and challenging our progress as a people. I am extremely pleased to report, however, that despite the apprehension, the TTPS has been making substantial progress in its crime-fighting initiatives. As of the beginning of August, we have seen some significant results. Serious crimes have been reduced by 11% in 2023. Shootings and woundings were reduced by 67% as of yesterday, and illegal firearm seizures have increased by 8%. Our intelligence machine has served us well, and we've arrested 129 persons in connection with home invasions. Now, that home invasion bit, this is some of the difficulty of policing. The negatives make the headlines. Some of the positives do not. There were some arrests from some of those home invasions. I believe the home invasion in Penal, where someone was assaulted, the men were arrested. 3 men, I believe. 2 men were arrested and charged for that. The murder of the Central Bank employee in Central Orangefield region. A young man, Central Bank employee, was murdered during a home invasion. And the 3 men that allegedly were responsible for that were arrested the same night when it occurred. Those arrests do happen, but unfortunately, they are not necessarily as widely reported or even as spicy for news, for people to pick it up and run with it. She said, I have the confidence that our strategies are working and we are making strides achieving our objectives. But I understand very well that to safeguard that progress, we must continuously review and update our planning, strategizing, implementation as we continue to be confronted by a desperate dynamic result that the comparative homicide rate has reduced from an increase of 10% between 2021 and 2022. I am embarrassed for her to read this. On her behalf, I am embarrassed to read this. I'm just letting it be known. Madam Christopher, I am embarrassed on your behalf to read this. The comparative homicide rate has reduced from an increase of 10% between 2021 and 2022, and we are at an increase of 0% for the corresponding period 2022 to 2023. Are you all understanding what the boast is there? So we had a sharp increase in homicides from year before, 21, to last year, 22. A sharp increase. That's a horrible thing. That's a bad thing. And she is basically boasting. I don't know if boasting is the right word, because I don't know if she necessarily says this as a boast, but she's putting it out there like nearly a positive statement that the sharp increase from year before to last year was maintained this year. That's not a positive thing. That's bad. That's really bad. That's kind of scary. It means we are holding the increase that we had. That's like, imagine you are the director of a company. You start a company, it's going profitable, you're selling whatever you're selling, your company is going. You have a little grocery, mini mart, something going there. But in the process of time, you get busy and you want someone else to continue doing it for you. Now, the first year this person take over, you handed over the reins to a new person to manage your grocery for you. The first year they took over, you lost money. Your grocery start losing money. You don't know how, but somehow the way this person managed your grocery, the first year they took over, you lost money. Now the second year is coming, and they are giving you a financial statement halfway through the second year of them managing. And they are saying, you know, I know last year we lose money, but we are showing some progress this year in that the same amount we lost last year, we are on track to lose that same amount again this year, boss. We lose the same amount. We're not losing anymore, We're not losing any more money. The same amount we lost last year, we're going to lose this year, boss. But we want you to gain money. That part really, I'm sorry, Madam Commissioner, to me, that part makes no sense. At least the framing of the statement there, to me, how you frame such a statement is as a horrible negative thing that we are indeed still working assiduously to bring down. Like, that statement should be something like if I were to just guess something you would say about that, well, we understand that the reality is one of the most significant statistics when it comes to the crime and the crime rate in Trinidad and Tobago, we understand, is the homicide rate, and rightfully so. Murders are a scary thing in a country, and understandably, we as officers understand why the public is genuinely scared and afraid when they see the murder rate. And we regret to inform you that as of this year, it seems to be that the murder rate is continuing at the same scary rate it was at last year. Now, we are attempting to implement various techniques to bring this down, and as it stands, some of these techniques we are seeing some progress. But what is happening currently in the underworld, there seems to be a bit of a heightened activity. So as we progress, some they advance in their vigor in criminal activity. So they are working against our progress. But we assure you that come the ending of the year, we do suppose that we will see some progress in bringing down this rate. If it was Gary Griffith you're talking about, he would have come for you. Well, maybe. But gladly, Madam Christopher is not the same commissioner. And truthfully, I don't even believe if it was Double G, he would have necessarily come for me for all that I said here. And if he came for me, I'd have invited him on and we'd have had a discussion. That would have worked out well for me. I have no problem with that. Like, if Miss Illa Christopher is really upset with some of the things I've said and she would like to address it, I would love if she wants to come onto my live and have a direct conversation with me. That would be perfect. I would be able to ask some questions. She would be able to answer some questions. It benefits us all. So maybe vacuous statements. Now, I hope that when the commissioner was making this bit of her statement, that she wasn't referring to Nathan Springer and the Mindful Live, because I don't think that we make vacuous statements. But she went on. Christopher was also critical of the detractors of the TTPS. While she did not mention any by name, she said these individuals were not adding to the national conversation on what was best to move forward, and was simply fueling the implausible expectation that it is the sole responsibility of the TTPS to stop crime. In the midst of all that the police have to respond to, it is unfortunate that it has become fashionable, it seems, from people who ought to know better, to make unstudious and vacuous statements against the TTPS. While it is not my intention to dignify such comments with a response, I will however caution that it is an extremely dangerous practice, as it has the potential to seriously undermine the integrity and legitimacy of the country's law enforcement agency, and that has far-reaching implications. She would have found me unstudious. Well, I hope not, because I don't find me unstudious. And I am always wary of politicians in systems like us and people in positions of leadership. Now, the commissioner technically isn't supposed to be a politician, but the nature of how our commissioner is done, it's a kind of political position. You could kind of call her a politician to some extent. And I am very critical of politicians in all kinds of systems that criticize things people see. Because you have to understand, you have the power imbalance. It seems ridiculous to me that someone who has the power of the control of the institution in this country that has the legal right to arrest you, raid your home, kill people under legal privilege, is angry or upset about unstudious statements that people see. I find that ridiculous. I find it unbecoming. I found it even unbecoming when Double G was doing some of that. Like, your position is way too powerful to attempt to silence people over your offense. You are in way too powerful a position to do that. And to me, it starts to cast you in a negative light. Because bear in mind, even if I'm making unstudious, stupid statements whole day, every day on Mindful Live, this is where my power is. I don't have the power to go inside of a police station and demand one thing. I could go and ask them for some help, and sometimes they even tell you no. My power is to talk. So you're going to tell me that I could be facing criminality on a daily basis. I could have faced personal loss because of the inaction of some officers. And then you would tell me to shut up about it. This is literally the only thing I can do. You have the ability to go on a mic and let the newspapers publish what you say on Independence Day for everyone to hear. And you come out to criticize the small man that talks. I never like things like this. I never like things like that. It does not make sense to me. But there are some police actions going on. Let's look at this very talking about market vendors. Speaking about market vendors in Grandy and about police, this is just an interesting connection between both that I saw here. Ganja over $1 million found in apartment. Market vendor wife in custody. DB market vendor and his wife were arrested after a police raid on their home on Wednesday found cannabis and over $1 million hidden in garbage bags on the premises. Police said that around 12:15 a.m. on Wednesday, an exercise was coordinated by senior officers of the Southwestern Division Gang Unit, the Southwestern Division Task Force, and Superior CID at the home of the 34-year-old and his 40-year-old partner, based on information received from a confidential source. Nathan, who can I trust? God, brother. God. But a confidential source gave this information. Somebody sell them out. Yeah. During the search, 2 cylindrical transparent jars containing a plant material resembling cannabis, plant-like substances. You all who remember news of years gone before will remember that statement, you know, plant-like substances. A black plastic bag containing an object resembling compressed cannabis, and an additional 361 grams of cannabis were found. Police said 2 medium-sized garbage bags with large amounts of currency, mostly $100 bills, were found under a bed. The vendor and his partner could not account for the money, which was then seized pending further inquiries to be conducted by the Financial Investigations Branch. Now, if you have your drugs and your money in the same place, well, the money is an obvious thing, but it just is a scary thing when you think about it, that the police could take money from you. If you can't properly explain it, they go with your money. They did the same thing to Swanee, just by the way, and he ended up getting back his money. That was part of the whole bacchanal in the Swanee case. One time when they raided him, they took some of his money, alleging that it was proceeds from illegal activity. He went to court and they had no proof of that, so he got back his money. These police officers are very honest to turn. They tell us that when they counted the money, it was $1 million, $1,055,100. We don't know if it was 1.5 million. We don't know if it was 2 million. We don't know what the actual number was. All we know is that when they brought the garbage bags into the police station and they counted it there, we know the number they got there. Yeah, plant-like substances in the Philippines area. Yeah. Plant-like substances down that side. Well, this is south also. This is south also. But yeah, things like this, things like these kind of seizures are the seizures I think regularly you end up seeing a spate of murders over. I am not hoping for this. This isn't something that I want. I don't want more murders in the country. But this is just the reality of some of the things that police would face, that even proper police action would cause. The police getting a tip-off here and going and seizing $1 million from someone. Now, if I read this correctly, it was from a one-room apartment they got this. That money and drugs may not necessarily belong to the market vendor and his partner. Whoever it actually belongs to will not be happy that they lost $1 million. The alleged drugs that were allegedly tipped over both over on our East Coast and washed up ashore. And some people allegedly took some and went out attempting to sell it on their own. That caused a spate of murders and reprisals in the East. What's going to happen if somebody's $1 million cash and drugs disappears? And this is the reality that police face. Even if you do your job, it may cause crime to spike in another area. Maria Budu Phillips says, yeah, leave people things. Are you telling that to the police? So if the police run up in a drug block and see drugs and money, they're supposed to leave the people's things alone because it doesn't belong to them. You know, some of these things are why I understand when people talk about recommendations for changes in law and they talk about removing drugs from being crimes. Removing it. Kill that whole black market illegal drug trade. Allow the police to focus their attentions on violent crime, things where there's a perpetrator and an obvious victim, and you go at that very hard instead of running around grass all around the place looking for grass. Oh, you mean those in the East? Well, yeah. That should have been obvious. You found illegal stuff of all things and you're going to interfere with it. That's foolish. There could be no honest police. We could live with them and can't live without them. I understand what you mean there. But I don't know if there are no honest police. I'd hope that at least there are 2-3 honest police out there. I'd hope, you know, not none. Like, let's not be batting zero in honest police. At least a 2-3 honest police out there. I hear Eastside. Yo, okay, baby. What's up? Police crack robbery ring as 6 charged. Officers made another significant breakthrough in the area of robberies as 6 suspects are expected to appear at the Port of Spain Magistrates Court today after they were charged in relation to a spate of robberies which occurred in various districts across Trinidad. Painstaking investigations and interdepartment collaboration led to the arrest of the 6 suspects. I am from that area and it's sad, and Grandy police 75% bad. Wow, that's a high statistic. But I've heard bad things about Grandy police, if I'm being honest. The news regularly says some bad things about the Grandy police, so I wouldn't necessarily doubt you, but that's a bad number. That is a horrible number. And when the commissioner was talking about the reality being police aren't the only ones that are supposed to stop crime. But when you read things like this, they arrest 6 here, and Grandy police viewing. Careful out there, Maria Budu. If you are from Grandy and you're talking about the Grandy police, careful, they're looking for you out there if they're bad enough. Hey, Trini Hotep, welcome, bro. But yeah, when you look at the reality of situations like this, you look at some statistics out from the United States where they were talking about the robberies and how many robberies were actually perpetrated by like something like 300 people. 300 people were arrested for something like 90%, or was it a lower number? 75%, I believe, of the robberies in an area. And it's not that large a number of people. If you're talking about the home invasions in Trinidad and Tobago, the nighttime violent robberies, the snatch and runs, you may be able to arrest. If the police could go out there in Trinidad and arrest 500 people, they arrest 500 people and it may have a decrease of 80% in violent crime in Trinidad and Tobago. That's just the reality of criminality. Criminals are not the majority of a population. It's a tiny minority that actually commits the majority of violent crime. Those guys who pull out a gun and rob somebody and maybe stab them or shoot them, that's not the first time they do things like that. Mike says the reason I said that, who can say they've been honest their whole life? That's reality. I understand what you're saying. There. KBB says, I also believe the system creates the criminals we fear and officers and to lock up. We fear and officers and to lock up. Yes, I agree. Some bad behavior from the system, some poor things from the system does help to create criminals. But I am not of the belief that criminals are only created by things that society does. Criminals decide to be criminals. Humans have free will. We can choose with whatever circumstances and situations and environments we are given to make choices that we like. There are people in Beetham who are not thieves, while there are some people in Beetham, accident turns to robbery, stabbing on Beetham Highway. 3 men who narrowly escaped death when the car they were traveling in crashed were beaten and robbed by bandits on the Beetham Highway this afternoon. Police said the men were traveling in a white Toyota Axio on the eastbound lane of the Beetham Highway around 12:10 p.m. when the driver lost control of the car and crashed on a grassy area of the highway just after the NP gas station. While they were not seriously injured by the crash, they were attacked by bandits on the Beetham who beat them and robbed one of the men of his gold chain. Police said one of the men was stabbed during the attack. And this is why I don't agree with the whole idea that, it's just the system creates the bandits. No. The police need to go into the Beetham and arrest probably 75 to 100 people. They arrest them, and very likely all of these activities would stop. It's all a gray area to me. KBB, it's often gray until you get robbed. It's often gray until you get robbed yourself. Then it becomes very black and white very quickly. Very, very quickly. When you see that these men who are robbing you are not paupers, they are not hungry, they are not robbing you to go and eat bread. Maria Budu Phillips says, I'm married to a police and my oldest is in the TTDF. When you join the service, do what you swear to do. 100% Maria, I agree with what you're saying. Probably we should put you at the top of the police service. The writing on your t-shirt is very wrong for viewing, therefore fix. I don't know what you're saying or what you are trying to say, but it is mirrored, Mr. Leslie Alexander. That's why it looks mirrored. It's a front camera. If you look at the writing on my hat, it's likewise. They just want to take out loan for Big Van and buy Hennessy every weekend. RL, you know some of the bandits out there. These guys are not struggling. They are partying with your money. They go into a house, rob people of their money to send their children back to school and take their back to school money to go and buy Hennessy and go and party with Hennessy and high grade with your child's school money. No, not Maria I'm talking about. I'm talking about what KBB is saying there. What KBB is saying about the system creating some of these people. It's not just the system. It's not just the system. It's choice. And what we need, really and truly, and this is why I say it about the police, when you hear people in the higher ups in the police service talk about, it's a social problem, it's a societal problem, yes and no at the same time. Yes, it is a social problem, but it is also a law enforcement problem, where if the law enforcement were able to arrest something like 500 people inside our society, leave them in prison without the prison law enforcement allowing them to communicate with the outside, because that's one of the biggest problems. That to me might be up there with either number one or number two of the biggest problems we face in Trinidad and Tobago, because to me it seems like most of the big bosses of many of the gangs in Trinidad and Tobago are already in prison. But if they are in prison and they could still run their gangs from in prison, then it kind of makes no point, no difference. And that is the fault of the prison officers, if we are being honest about it. They don't communicate with the outside through drum beats and smoke signals, something that is so incognito that no one else knows how it happens. The prison officers know how it happens. Continuing with law enforcement though, and this to me lines up directly with firearms. I spent the past 3 weeks in Laventille volunteered in a summer camp. It's really sad for the kids. Yes, it is. I've been around some less fortunate youth, and it is very sad for the children. But this pertains to our Prime Minister's stance, his adamant stance on firearms not getting into the regular citizens' hands. It's not. We don't want more guns. More guns means more problems in our society. And the problem I often have with this is the reality is, by banning guns, by making guns illegal, all you do is make sure that law-abiding citizens don't have guns. The reality is criminals will find a way. And the reality is the ways actually become easier and easier as technology progresses. A very, very dangerous challenge. PM and police raid of 3D printing gun factory in Central. This was a very, very dangerous challenge. This was how Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley yesterday described the discovery that assault rifles using 3D printing technology were being manufactured in this country. Speaking at the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Independence Day celebration, he said we would be fooling ourselves in 2023 if we do not acknowledge that to a few citizens in this country, a decision has been made that crime could pay. And it is from that thought that a number of the criminal actions have flowed. As Prime Minister, I have said on many occasions that firearms come into our country, we do not make them here, and therefore we should be concerned about the points of entry. That changed last week when we discovered that people in our country are innovative enough to be using modern technology to generate and manufacture firearms in TNT. That's just a new challenge, a very, very insidious one, and a very, very dangerous one. And every time a decision is made to exploit the technology or weaknesses in our society, it makes the job of the TTPS even more difficult. But the fight against criminals will be won, and it is a worthy cause of public service that the TTPS is putting in. Now, tell me, how do you expect the police? How do you expect the police to get all the guns off the street if people could print the guns in their bedrooms? Laventil in some primary. Well, you obviously seem like you weren't familiar with Laventil before that, but yes, Laventil is, I often see, Laventil might be the most prime property in Trinidad and Tobago. It might be the suburban hillside with multiple entrances and exits, not locked in like Goodwood and Maraval areas. It is open to transit and right outside the city on the hillside with an ocean view. Listen, Laventil is some prime property, very prime property. And I agree with you, Leslie Alexander. Our politics does border on the colonial style of governance. I regularly say this. And this is the point here. This is the point here. How would the police be able to police illegal firearms if you could print them in your home? And here's what I could foresee in Trinidad and Tobago. Here's what I could foresee in Trinidad and Tobago. We could be at a stage in this country where every criminal could print their guns on a morning right before they go, well, on a night right before they go to do their business. And the Prime Minister that we have right now, with the PNM leadership, would still be telling us, no, 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 no. No regular citizens should go out and own guns, you know. So you could never own a gun while the criminals print them every day. That's where I think we could be headed to in this country. Probably should make a license to own those 3D printers then. RL, you understand where all of this is going to go? Technology isn't going backward. It's going forward. All of these things are going to become easier and easier and easier. If you have to do what you are saying there, eventually where that is going to lead is that you are going to have a license for all new technology. Only the elites could access the technology, and you have to have the country running like it was back in the 90s for us to remain in that technological bubble, because you know the police can't police further technology. Mike says it's whom bringing it in, not the small man. As I regularly say, Mike, that is not true. The small men do bring in guns. It is not just some boogeyman of the 1% that bringing in the guns and giving the poor black ghetto youth and causing the black ghetto youth to kill out himself. No. It's the black ghetto youth himself building his own connections. This to me is the racism of low expectations. Like somehow black ghetto youth don't know how to make illegal connections with criminals in foreign to learn how to ship guns down to Trinidad and Tobago. No, they are shipping it themselves. They are shipping it themselves. They are bringing it in themselves. They are printing some themselves. Don't you remember there was, during a high spate of murders about 2 months ago, there was one man murdered, was it in Maraval or Santa Cruz region, and the allegations against this man is he was a known gun technician. He was alleged to be a known gun technician for one of the main gangs. The gangs have their own gun technicians. Like, you think this is hard? You think it's impossible that some man went into the defense force, learned a lot about the guns inside there, practiced, had some training, and came out and is working with some one of the gangs? You think that's an impossible thing? Some little black boy? Or no, it must be some guy with not too much melanin in his skin. Melanated people those melanated people don't naturally do crime. They must be pressed into crime by some higher up fair-skinned man. No. That's not necessarily true. They could do bad all on their own. All on their own. They don't need the help. They do have the help. It does work like that, but they don't need it. They're bringing those guns all on their own. I think personally, this is my personal opinion. I don't know this to be a fact. My personal opinion is that part of the reason that we're seeing the heightened level of murders right now in Trinidad and Tobago might have to do with some of this. No longer is it that all of the criminals need to work through same networks to get their criminality done. They don't need to all contact the same Mr. Big to get the same weapons from the same man. No, they could actually bring in themselves. They could do things on their own. So now you have a more fragmented and fractured criminal underworld. They aren't all under the same thumb. So I have my own gang that has its own supply, so I could go and try to wipe you out because there's no loss to me from that. And that, to me, this is my guess. To me, I think that might be part of the reason we're seeing the kind of increase in murders in Trinidad and Tobago. It's obvious that some of the gangs that were once massive gangs with much greater control over wider areas have splintered. They have splintered. And the splintering of those gangs are causing some of the heightened level of murders. You look at the people who are being murdered, the vast majority are bad men, They're gangsters too. Gangsters killing gangsters. For a large part. Why do you think that is happening? Fractured gangs no longer working together because they no longer have to. They're bringing, a lot of them are bringing it in all on their own. This idea that, it's somehow back in 1970 and you have one big boy who has a shipment coming in, and the one big boy who named Mr. Big, who is the big fish, and he has the custom officers on his payroll and Arrows and them boys paying with US and thing and can't even get a little thing in the bank, and I can't get a little thing in the bank. Yeah, listen. Look at this. The market vendor that was busted in Davie was busted with $1 million plus cash. $1 million cash under a bed in an apartment of a market vendor. You think those guys don't have the money to bring in their own stuff? The allegation in one of the articles with this the drugs that was washed up on the East Coast. The allegation, this is not me, this is the newspapers, was saying that it was destined for some big trafficker on the other side of Trinidad by the Gulf in Claxton Bay area. And it was money and cash that was overboard. Sorry, not money and cash. Money and drugs. And the drugs that was found was worth 20 something million. So the drugs that was missing may have added up to what? Upwards 30 something million in drugs? At least. That's some guy in Claxton Bay, allegedly. You think they don't have the money to do their own stuff? There's a lot of money in the criminal underworld. Do not get that mistaken. I regularly have to point that out. Many of these guys aren't playing. They aren't joking about it. You look at some of the higher level drug dealers, not the guys in the rubber slippers forever. Some of those drug dealers are playing with large amounts of money. They buy cars at a regular rate. They have multiple properties. They have rental properties. They have businesses. We aren't even talking Pablo Escobar and cartel level in South America. We're talking a man in Trinidad and Tobago. Men in Trinidad and women in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, that's the regular examples. And you know, when you're talking about these examples, some of the easiest examples to use are men who are already deceased. So you know, you don't necessarily put yourself in the way of any kind of trouble out there. We do live in a dangerous country at the end of the day. But though deceased, he was a fisherman, and obviously there was a lot of cash passing through his hand. The guy that I spoke about before, Las Cuevas, down in the caves. Mansions up on that side. These guys have money. Maria says, sadly, a lot of people are going to get themselves caught in shite with that drugs. Yes, and they have already done so. Then they paint Robocop as a good person. Listen. Who is they? Who painted who as a good person? The people, I believe the people in their community know who those men are. If you want to know exactly how those men live their lives, go and speak to people in their communities, and they would tell you whether the person was indeed a community leader or a businessman or whatever they may have been or might not have been. Hi, Halle Joseph. Mike says nothing can change the crime situation, only like drastic measures, hanging. No, that is not going to change the crime situation. How is public hanging going to change the crime situation if we cannot arrest the people who are doing the murders? And if we do arrest the people who are doing the murders, then they are not prosecuted in a timely manner. How are you going to publicly hang people? And weren't you the one, Mike, that just said all the police are corrupt? So you are going to leave killing people up to a service that you consider totally corrupt? That doesn't make sense to me at all. That's not going to stop the crime situation. What stops the crime situation is actually punishing crime when it happens. El Salvador found that out. You want to stop the crime situation? El Salvador figured it out. Okay, all of these cartel members who call themselves criminals, well, we are going to throw them in jail because they consider themselves criminals. We take all of them and take them and put them in prison. And what would you know? Crime solved in El Salvador. Just like that. Surprising. Mike, that and a unicorn you're gonna never see. It starts from the top politicians. Agreed. Hi, Sugar. The host is back up. I'll be right back. Clean up all these servicemen or women because they encourage the crime. I agree. I regularly say this. In Trinidad and Tobago, I made this point with the Swanee story. Like, if Swanee is lying and he was a bad man, well, she actually is back to sleep again. If Swanee is lying and he actually was a bad man, and now the police are actually trying to arrest him, and the police are doing an honest job, that's what's going on, and he isn't liking that the police are trying to actually arrest him for his crimes, then what that suggests is the ones that escape is because the police also allow them. It tells you something about the situation in Trinidad and Tobago. The bad men that are notorious for being bad men and are just out there, almost all are there because law enforcement allows it. For whatever reason, the law enforcement doesn't want to allow it anymore with Swanee, and it's done. Now he's begging for asylum from the United States. So, however, the Western Division gang unit did it there. If it is that he's lying and it's just real criminal activity that they are pursuing, can't they pursue that with all the other notorious gangsters in Trinidad? Possibly have all the gangsters asking the United States for asylum. Why isn't that happening? Like, if you think about it a bit, doesn't quite add up, does it? Alright, people, it is a Friday, and I'm not staying long this Friday. I'm gonna be out. We aren't staying long. We'll be back next week. So, any further comments or questions inside of the live? Word technology is forever evolving while our laws are static and old. Facts. Here, Uswan is asking for help from the United States. Well, the Democrats love asylum seekers, so it might be the ideal time for him to go seek that asylum before you see next thing Trump wins the next election, and I don't think he would get through with asylum with that group. Any further comments or questions inside of the live? That's all I have for now. Trini Hotep says, be mindful, not mindless. Agree to that, bro. Thank you all for tuning in. That's all I have for now. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. We have the show every weeknight. Every weeknight, basically around 9 p.m. we start. Sometimes, we a little technical difficulties at 9:15, but 9, the police are aware of all the so-called gang leaders now. So yes, so why can't they do the right thing? Good question. Blessed night, stay woke. Good night. No live yesterday and short tonight. Yeah, Gil. You know it goes. Night after the holiday. Sister Isle, nice like that. I want to be there, bro. I wish I was there. Thank you, Leslie Alexander. You could tune in for the next Mindful Live, which is going to be Monday evening around that 9 p.m. time. And I will see you guys then. Latest, folks. Peace. Hold it down. Hope you're educated, informed, and entertained. I am out. Later.